a professor at Notre Dame University, getting some attention for retweeting a comment from someone calling Jesus a socialist. She's Candida Moss, author of The Myth of Persecution, and she joins us now. Candida, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, we're going to talk about Jesus being a socialist, yes or no. I saw you on O'Reilly the other night, and you said in that interview, Jesus had said, in order to get to heaven, the rich people, they've got to give away all their possessions. You said that, right?
Well, there is a story in the New Testament in which Jesus does tell a rich young man that in order to follow him and be perfect, he should give away his possessions. And it's difficult for us to know, is this for everyone? Is this for us now? Will we go to hell if we don't do this?
Did you also say that a rich man is condemned to hell for not giving away his possessions?
Right. There's another story in the Gospel of Luke where there's a man called Lazarus who is very poor, who's in heaven, and then there's a rich man who didn't look after Lazarus, who's in hell. And again, the question is, does this count for all of us? And while I can't really tell you that, what I can tell you is that there's a very consistent message in the New Testament that those who have an excess of wealth must share with those who don't have enough.
Must share?
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought you got to heaven on the basis of your faith, as opposed to your good works or otherwise on earth.
Right. Well, this isn't the only thing that Jesus says. So faith is a really important component. But the importance of looking after the poor, that's a really important part of the gospel message too.
You think it's a flat-out injunction? Jesus said, actually, can you tell me where he said you must give away your possessions? Can you quote me chapter and verse on that one?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Go.
So when Jesus talks to the rich young man, that's in Matthew 19. Now, in Matthew 25, we have this story of what will happen on Judgment Day. And Jesus says that if you didn't look after the thirsty, if you didn't look after the hungry, if you didn't look after the naked, then you're going to be in trouble on Judgment Day. Now, what we don't know is how much do you have to give away.
That doesn't mean give away everything you have. That means helping other people out, which is what this country is all about. I mean, the argument that you're putting up there, you're laying up for a whole lot of people is that, you know, somehow you're a bad person for making money in the first place, accumulating wealth, and then not giving it all away.
I don't think that you're a bad person for
going to hell makes
wealth.
you a pretty bad person.
No, you're in spiritual jeopardy. Love of money sort of places you in spiritual jeopardy. What we do know is that the disciples in the Acts of the Apostles actually didn't believe in holding possessions as an individual. They held everything in common. Now, I'm not happy about this either, but the fact of the matter is Jesus is very concerned with care for the poor.
Are you a socialist?
I wouldn't say that I'm a socialist, but I would say that...
Are you a collectivist?
I would say that Jesus is a collectivist.
Really? I don't think he involved himself in politics at all.
Oh, well, you know, what do you mean he doesn't involve himself in politics? He's constantly doing actions like sort of when he overturns the tables in the temple, that's sort of a political action. He's predicting the destruction of the temple. So to say that he's not involved in politics is to artificially separate politics from everything else in life.
Let me just bring in Bill O'Reilly on this one. This is what he said to you from his interview with you, I think it was last week, on this particular point. Can we roll that tape, please?
And Jesus went in and overturned the money changers' tables, and everybody saw it. And the people were furious that they were, you know, being taxed so highly because they didn't have anything to begin with. And we go through all of that. And Jesus was executed because he interrupted the money flow.
That's what O'Reilly says is the reason for killing Jesus in the first place. You agree with that?
Well, the money changing incident, that might be the reason for killing Jesus, but there's no evidence that the excess money from the money changers actually made its way back to Rome. And so O'Reilly is mistaken on that. We just don't have the evidence. One could make the argument that this incident is actually about tighter banking regulations.
It's easier for a rich man to go to, what was that? Okay, it's easier for a rich man, it's more difficult for a rich man to go to heaven than a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. Are you using that parable, that quotation?
That's another quotation that seems to suggest that it's really important for the wealthy to help the poor.
But you do know that the needle refers to an entry into a walled city and not to an actual needle.
Yes, but archaeologically that's a very small gate. And so a camel loaded up with goods can't pass through that gate easily. It's not just that it's a snug fit, it's well nigh impossible. When the disciples say to Jesus after that saying, who's going to be saved? Jesus says, well, you know, all things are possible with God. So it's really tough.
Would you say that the faculty in the theology department at Notre Dame agrees with you?
I would say that we have a really diverse faculty, and that there's...
You do?
Yeah.
That's unusual.
There's a wide range of opinions. One of my colleagues...
Are they predominantly on the left?
No, I wouldn't say that. You mean fiscally on the left, or...?
I mean, just politically generally.
No, I wouldn't.
The interpretation of the Gospels, you think, is more right-wing, more conservative?
I would say that, Notre Dame is a Catholic facility, so there's a lot of sort of conservative social teachings with respects to, say, sexual ethics, but in terms of concern for the poor, I would say that most Christians are concerned for the poor. So if that's left-wing, then sure, we're left-wing.
All right, we're listening to you. Thanks very much indeed. Candida Moss, we appreciate you being with us today. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
All right, you're not happy.
I am. I thought it was a fantastic interview. I see... Listen, we're in this political age, and we have to be honest about it. When you write a book like this, you know it's going to be hijacked and used for purposes beyond helping the poor to total redistribution, demonizing and beating down the wealthy. And at the end of the day, no one can be prosperous if we have a society that does that. And you can look around the world and see why America is the greatest country in the world is because people have the ability and are encouraged to become rich. Then you can help others.